Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. I think we can anticipate seeing a continuation of missile strikes from Iran until they are out of munitions. The economy of war will catch up with Iran soon. Their missile production will cease, and they will run out of munitions and equipment soon to keep launching strikes against targets in the region. At that point, I think we can expect to see more attacks from terrorist groups that are influenced by Iran. In the meantime, the Iranian people will likely continue to push on the regime and push for regime change within. I believe a regime change in Iran would result in continued peace or renewed peace in the Middle East. You would see partnerships in Iran begin to flourish if there was a regime change. And the Iranian people have suffered the most under this regime, and they would finally see relief from sanctions. Their economy would improve, and the standard of living would improve in Iran. However, that is up to the Iranian people at this point. Right now, the U.S. and Israel have eliminated Iran's ability to control their own skies. Tonight, America and Israel controls the skies over Iran. And with each passing day, Iran's ability to strike with missiles is reduced. And soon, they will no longer have the ability to strike with missiles. They will run out of munitions and the ability to create more missiles. And they'll be forced to deal with the people of Iran who appear to be hungry for regime change. I believe this will significantly reduce terror. Iran has been funding the majority of the terror groups we've seen in the Middle East. And there's a point to be made here. Since Iran's revolution in the late 1970s, when it began with taking the US embassy and taking American prisoners, the war has always continued and has continued to increase. During America's war in Iraq and Afghanistan, we saw Iran aiding terror groups and directly engaging US forces and claiming the lives of thousands of American soldiers in Iraq and in Afghanistan. So if this regime is eliminated, it will never completely eliminate terrorism. However, it will lose its primary funding source and its primary support. Yes, of course. These militia groups will attempt to engage, but eventually they will starve from lack of funding. They receive their funding through Iran, and when Iran falls, their funding will cease. There will always be other funding sources, but the primary source of funds for these groups has been Iran. So if you don't have money, you don't have soldiers. Well, when the war began, I anticipated Hezbollah and proxy groups within Iraq to strike out at targets in hopes of aiding Iran. But again, their attacks will be limited. And then, of course, Iran foolishly struck civilian targets in the UAE, Kuwait, and other regions. And that has only served to unite these nations with the US and Israel. Now we see the Saudis are going to take part in supporting this effort to end Iran's hold on the region. And again, I think regime change in the fall of this government, it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, but when they will fall and the Iranian people will be once again in control of their country. No, the U.S. attempted negotiations, and then the United States and Israel destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities in hopes of bringing them back to the negotiating table. At the end of the day, the United States offered Iran to give them their own uranium to be used for medical purposes and non-military purposes, but Iran has refused. Iran will never agree to stop trying to develop a nuclear weapon. And this is a point which the United States and Israel will not allow them to achieve this goal. Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And of course, this is the regime's goal, to have power over the Middle East through the use of nuclear weapons. Absolutely. The Saudis have a very strong military and air force. And I would not be surprised to see Saudi jets over the Iranian skies soon. The Iranian effort to attack those who have remained neutral or supported the United States and Israel has only served to unite these nations on the side of the United States and Israel. It's important to notice, too, Iran is not targeting military targets. They're targeting diplomatic facilities and civilians. You know, the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. That's strictly a civilian target. It is meant to terrorize the population, and it's a continued strategy of Iran. It's important to note that the 12-day war, the goal and the objective of that engagement was to not only set back the Iranian goal of achieving nuclear weapons, but to bring them back to the negotiating table. And it served that purpose. However, the Iranians have made it clear they will never agree to stopping developing nuclear weapons. So this military objective from this campaign is to completely eliminate the threat of Iran. When this campaign is finished, Iran will not have a navy. They will not have the ability to deploy missile strikes or drone strikes, and they will be, an empty government. The United States and Israel has already eliminated more than top 40 of Iran's officials, and they'll continue to do so. So the sooner that regime change is secured, the sooner the fighting will end, and the sooner the Iranian people can stop living underneath this type of oppression, and the world can stop fearing strikes from Iran. Right. President Trump has made it clear that the fighting will not stop until the United States and Israel have achieved their goals. Time is not on the side of the Iranians. Soon the Iranians will run out of weapons, run out of supplies, and run out of the ability to strike back at Iran and Israel and neighboring nations. At that point, I think we can anticipate to see an increase in terror attacks on the ground and with a limited ability. But that will be the only weapon Iran will have left. Iran does not have an army to mobilize on the ground. There's no ground fight, and Iran's air force is no longer existence. The only thing they have left are missiles, and those are running out every night. Iran's ability to affect the Strait will soon be eliminated. I believe the United States and Israel will soon destroy what is left of Iran's navy, and the straits will be secured. That is a card that they will not be able to play for a prolonged time. Their navy is no match for the United States Navy, nor do they have the ability to protect their ships against U.S. and Israeli strikes. So while that is a temporary issue and will cause a spike in oil prices and send alarm through the financial markets, it's not a real military threat. It's not something that they can hold.